All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully, everybody had a good weekend. So we'll go ahead and get started here. I always start with questions that were asked up to an hour before. So if you asked your question after 4 p.m. today, we'll go ahead and get that answered. If you asked it before 4 p.m. today, if you asked it over the weekend or earlier, much earlier today, then just go ahead and repost your question. And we'll get an answer. The reason why I do that is just want to make sure that I'm answering questions for people who are here to see them get answered. If you ask your question on Saturday, not during office hours time, then I don't know if you're going to be here. Most likely you're not going to be here. So try to get precedence to people who are here, who can actually see their question get answered live. So make an adjustment here, and then we'll go ahead and get started. I'll find our first question of the day. We already got lots of questions in here, so I'm going to be probably going through these fairly quickly. All right, so John G says, when starting the backswing, should I turn the hips and the shoulders together and straight back? Yes, your hips and your shoulders are both going to be turning in the backswing. Now, your shoulders are going to be turning faster, twice as fast, right? Because basically your hips are going to turn. Got people flying around everywhere. Your hips are going to turn roughly around 45 degrees, and your shoulders are going to turn roughly about 90 degrees. So when you turn back, if I turn back to here, my hips have maybe turned, 25 degrees. If you look from this angle, if I turn my shoulders to about 45 degrees, my hips will have turned, roughly in the neighborhood of 20, 25 degrees. And then as I continue, my hips will get to 45 degrees and my shoulders will get to 90. So those are good numbers to go for. If you can get a 45-degree hip turn, 90-degree shoulder turn, that's going to be a good spot to be. All right, so Doug A says, I know about the move, just wondering what the positions of the wrists are with a 40, 70-yard pitch shot. Is the right wrist still angled like the top of a full swing? There's actually going to be a little bit less, for that kind of shot. It really depends on what your club head speed is, but if you have, relatively, that's kind of like a pitch shot. So essentially, in that kind of shot, we're just kind of hinging the club up a little bit. We're not going as much like this, like what would be what's called radial deviation, where we're thumbs up. It's more this kind of hinge. So my right wrist is going back. My left wrist is bowing a little bit. So it's kind of hinged like that. And then it's more just the arms and the hands coming through together. That's kind of what you want to feel for that kind of shot. Now, on the lower club head speed side, it may feel more like a full swing for you. But for the most part, it's just going to be more of a hinging of the wrist, this bending back of the wrist, not so much this. So when you go up to the top of the swing, you're going to have that radial, and you're also going to have that back kind of position as you're at the top, more of the thumbs up position. Whereas with this, it's not going to be as much thumbs up. It's more of this, right? It's just back and through. So that's going to allow you to get the handle more ahead as you're coming through impact. But you're really basically doing the same thing. The move is shallowing the club or getting the club on plane essentially and squaring up the face earlier in the swing. So if you bring this club back and it's already basically square, I'm keeping that club face pointing more down toward the target line. I don't have to do anything else. That's that wrist motion that I was talking about. I don't have to do anything else to square up the face. I can just pivot through and be coming into contact. And also, this club can stay on plane or a little bit shallower to the plane. I don't have to, since I'm not going vertical and lifting this club up very much, it's more of just the pivot of my body for that short of a shot. I don't have to lift the club up. I can just keep it right here. So the club's already shallowed out. You likely don't need to shallow it up anymore. Now, it's personal preference. I mean, you can bring the club more outside you want and then shallow it in if you want to. But I find it's easiest just to kind of pivot back and pivot through. So that way there's less moving parts there. You don't have to kind of loop it in. There's no advantage there to bring in that club more outside. Whereas with a full swing, going more vertical, the advantage is you can get more speed from doing that. But with this, I'm not going for speed, right? And I don't need to, I can get just as much speed from here as I can from here. But if I keep it right here, I don't have to bring it back inside. But if I bring it here, I have to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to come down steep and cut across the ball. All right, so John L says, "Hi Q, I have to give you a shout out for the excellent answer last Friday's highlights about shallowing the club and why we do it. Touche. Further question about the swing. You demonstrated the sit and rotate. Is it the body rotating making the swing, or is it the arms and the body following?" So the arms are really going to be following. So if you imagine, if I'm at the top of the swing, I'm here. When I get back to here, when I do that sit and rotate, the only reason why my arms got to here, from here to here, is because I rotated my hips. It's not because I went from there to there with my arm. My arm is staying the same relationship to my upper body. It's the same relationship. So as I'm starting down, I'm sitting and rotating. You can see I'm not changing any relationship up here. Now, if you can't move very well, let's say you can't really move your legs very well, there may be some physical limitations there. You may need to swing more with your arms, but the best players in the world, those who are physically capable of using their legs, and I wouldn't automatically think that you're not physically capable because you can't do it or because you're not doing it in your swing right now. It's probably just because you've done it the other way for so long. It's hard to change your motor patterns essentially, but just because you feel you're not doing it in your swing right now doesn't mean you can't. So, but if you're someone who really can't move very well at all, can't move their hips very well, you may need to swing all arms, but understand that an armsy kind of swing isn't going to have as much speed. You can get some speed. You can absolutely get plenty of speed, but you're not going to have as much speed as someone doing the same thing, but is also using their body. You're not going to have, you're going to hit the ball probably a little bit higher, which won't necessarily be a bad thing, because if you're swinging all arms, you probably don't have a lot of speed anyway. So having a little bit earlier release may help you to get the ball in the air a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, we're kind of getting off on a tangent essentially, but the arms are being followed by the body. So my hips rotate initially, right? That's kind of getting everything started. And then from here, this is our max lag position, essentially, when the lead arm is parallel to ground. This is when we start to release the club. So now everything's starting to catch up. This is usually a pretty good checkpoint right in here. Club parallel to the ground, club somewhere around the trail leg. Now, some people have different trail leg positions, so that's not exact. But somewhere in this area is where you would want to be. And then at impact, you like to see the hands in front of the lead leg when looking from face on. And then you see in the straight line release, that's about 45 degrees out front. That's all being led by my hips rotating and my torso following and my shoulders following that and my arms in the club following after that. But thanks, John, for the shout out. Appreciate it. So Mayor A says, "Hi Q, my swing is coming along great, striking the ball beautifully. The miss that I now fight is my ball starting straight and going left." So it sounds like your face is too close, or maybe you just have a path that's too much in to out. So the ball is always going to start mostly in the direction of the club face. You could be hitting it off the toe as well, but basically a shot that goes left. I'm assuming that you're right-handed. A ball that goes left, if it has right to left curvature at all, even if it's starting left or starting straight, if it curves from, if it curves left, it means that your face is close to the path or you're hitting it off the toe. So if my face is close to the path, that essentially means I'm hitting it with a glancing blow. That puts that curvature on it. If I hit it on the toe, what happens is something called gear effect. So the ball hits the face, it compresses on the face, for a split second. And when it's pancaked on the face, it will roll kind of toward the center of the face. And what that will do is that will put this spin on it, this kind of right to left spin. So if you hit the ball with a face that's close to the path and hit it off the toe, that's going to be a big time hook. If you just hit it off the toe, the ball will start a little bit more to the right than it normally would, and then it will curve to the left more than it normally would. You can hit a ball with a slice swing and hit it off the toe, and it can go dead straight. You can hit a ball with a slice swing, hit it off the toe, and it can still go right. It wouldn't go as far right as it normally would, right? Unless you get it just way, way out on the toe when the face just opens so much that no amount of gearing could make it curve back. But that's essentially what can happen there. So you need to look at your swing on video and see if you're swinging too much into out. And if it looks like you're swinging on plane, or you can use some foot power spray and see where you're striking on the face as well. But basically, it boils down to those three things. Those are the things you got to check: your direction your club face is pointing at impact, the path of your club, and also the strike location. And then adjust whatever piece that's causing the issue to get the desired result that you want. So if it's a strike issue, you're hitting it on the toe, try to hit it on the heel. If it's a path issue, you're swinging too much into out, feel like you're swinging out to in, right? If it's a face issue, you're closing the face too much, feel like you're holding the face open, getting the ball to start to the right. All right, so John L. says, Q, during one of the recent golf tournaments, Nick Faldo was saying the golfers were having a hard time compressing the ball because of the type of grass. It sounds like he is confusing pinching the ball against the ground as compression compared to what it really is, and that is hitting the ball on the equator with the club, correct? Trying to think of why they would have issues compressing the ball because of the type of grass. I mean, if it's very, very tightly mown grass, so imagine you have very, very tightly, like you almost imagine like you're hitting off of something that was just dead, like glass, like marble. So if I were to make ball first contact with this and it was just laying flat like this, you can see that my contact point would be fairly low on the face. Ideally, to get more compression on the ball, it would probably be, the strike that you can kind of see my wear marks on this old wedge. I don't know if you can see that. I got some wear marks on this old wedge. Somewhere in that area would be a good compression. But if you're hitting it down here, that's less compression on the ball. So that could have been what's going on. And it also could be the opposite. If the ball is really sitting up in the grass, you can get to where the strikes are too high on the face, and that could be why. Otherwise, I'm not really sure what I would have to hear exactly what he said. But I mean, I think that, I think they're bent grass, and I haven't had any issue. I grew up in the Midwest, played a lot of bent grass courses, and I haven't had any issues compressing the ball. So I'm not really sure exactly what he was talking about. I'm pretty sure that was a bent grass course. I listened to an interview with who was it that came close there at the end? I can't remember what his name is. Streelman. Yeah, Streelman. He talked about. I think he grew up in Chicago, and he talked about how he liked the course because bent grass. Well, I grew up in Illinois, Indiana area, and there were a lot of bent grass courses in that climate area, so I played a lot of them. But I don't know why I would necessarily say that. That's interesting though. But it could be the only thing I can think of they're having trouble compressing is because the grass either sets the ball up too high or sets the ball up really low, so it makes it harder to get it in the center of the face, more in this area of the face, which would reduce the amount of compression. But I'm not really sure 100%. So Mary A says, here are my two questions. There's not much instruction pertaining to the backswing. I'm reading up on what Hogan did in the backswing and did some of it not making sense. Can you please explain what Mr. Hogan did in his backswing? Honestly, I'm not really sure. I haven't really studied much on Hogan's backswing, but I'll tell you the big reason why we don't have a ton of instruction on the backswing is because it's really people get way too obsessed with the backswing and the takeaway. I think it's really, if you look on tour, you're going to see a lot of different backswings, right? You're going to see, look at Matt Wolff. Matt Wolff, he brings this club way up like this and then shallows it way out. If you look at JB Holmes, brings the club way inside, right? And then brings it down like that. So, the backswing, it's kind of your own personal preference. The only thing I say about the backswing that I like to see is I like to see a wide takeaway. So I like to see this club kind of going out wide like this instead of like this. And the reason for that is that if you just kind of pick up the club like this, you're not getting the shoulders involved soon enough. And typically what will happen is you just kind of end up like this at the top and you don't turn your shoulders. Whereas if I get a nice wide takeaway, right? If I get a nice wide takeaway, look, I brought the club up to parallel and look how much my shoulders have already turned. It just makes it a lot easier to get a big shoulder turn, to get a bigger shoulder turn, which is really important for distance and things like that. So that's a big piece of it. The other reason why you may want to have a wide takeaway is because it can make it easier to create some lag in the downswing. Because if you watch here, if I bring this club out wide, I'm creating, this club has more space to travel in a shorter period of time. So it's going to have more momentum going this way, which can make it easier to get some lag in the start of the downswing. If I pick this club up like this and I'm bringing it up like that, it's not traveling as far, so it's not going as quickly at the top of the swing, and I don't have as much lag that can be generated. So that's another reason. But hey, if I look at your backswing and you go like this and you get up to the top like this and create some lag and it all looks great, I'm not changing anything. That looks fantastic. But if you're someone who looks like this at the top of the swing and you're only getting this much of a turn, then we may try to get you to get a wider turn in the backswing. So that's really the big thing there. Now, as far as the club going outside or inside or things like that, really, if you look at all tour players, you're going to see a lot of differences there. Where you're not going to see a ton of difference anyway, is when you get to lead arm parallel to the ground in the downswing. You're pretty much going to see every single tour player is going to look something like that, right? So their legs are going to be flexed, lead arm parallel to the ground, their hips are going to be back to square, they're going to have a flex in their legs, they're going to have this club pretty well shallowed out, the club face starting to square earlier, they're going to be in some kind of position like this. But they can look like that or like that in the backswing, and they get to right here. This allows them to come into contact in the same way. You're going to see that's really the most important thing. So, JB Holmes brings the club way inside like this, kind of lifts it up like that, and then shallows out and gets in that position. Matt Wolff brings the club way outside like this, kind of straight up in the air, and then starts down so it gets down to that position. So neither one of those are wrong. They're both ways that allow them to get the club in the right position. You just have to find that what works the best for you. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. And I'm not against copying great players, but I think the best way to do it is just to kind of find the position at the top of the swing that is best. So top of the swing that you want to be in, and then take the club up to that position. Whenever you naturally get there, and it allows you to get that club to be where we're going from here to there, in the downswing, that's what I'd be practicing. Now, if I see someone who really rolls the face open like this, and then has the club going like this, and then clearly there's momentum that goes from the inside and then to the outside, we may try to change that because that's causing them to hit the ball poorly, right? That's causing them to have an open face, cut across the ball, probably going to struggle with slices. But if it's someone that brings this club way open like this, then has it go up like this, and then they shallow it out, and then they square earlier in the swing, they bring it down, I ain't changing anything because whatever that is, that's working for them. That's completely fine. Freddie Couples is kind of the same way. He takes the club way across the line, open face, but then shallows it out and brings it in to, he gets to this position that we just talked about a minute ago. So don't get too obsessive with the backswing. If you change anything in your backswing, it has to be to improve how you bring this club into the golf ball. It has to be to improve with that. So don't get obsessed with positions of the backswing. Get obsessed with your impact and how you can improve that. That's how you're really going to improve your golf game. So work from there out to something in your takeaway. Whatever you change in your takeaway has to be to improve that moment of truth, that impact point. And then it goes on to ask, when it comes to shallowing the club, I'm getting the turning of the doorknob part right, but not the rotation of the club face. If I am fighting a hook, do I need to worry about that much? Well, I mean, you need the rotate. You can get away. I'd have to see your swing, but you can get away with, there's some players that don't rotate a lot. Like Brooks Koepka doesn't have a ton of rotation. He's rotating some, but he doesn't have a ton of rotation into contact and gets plenty of forward shaft lean and compression on the golf ball. So it's hard to say without seeing your swing, but the turning of the doorknob, that's shallowing out the club, right? So that's what the shallowing of the club is. If I'm turning the doorknob, right, so that's what that motion is, both hands, that shallows the club. And then we have the squaring of the face earlier is coming from the wrist positions, right? So that's coming from that right there. So in the tennis racket drill, that's what we're doing. We're shallowing the club, we're turning the doorknob, and we're squaring the face early. So see my club face, I'm going like this, and my club face is squaring. See how it's pointing more toward the camera there? So from this position here, now I can come into contact and really, get some forward shaft lean because the face is already square. The face is already in a position where all I really have to do is rotate into contact. So if you look at Brooks Koepka, he's got the club way shallowed out. He's bowing that wrist, and then from there he just comes in and comes into contact more like this. Not a ton of rotation, but comes in. But he's coming through contact. But if you look at Dustin Johnson, who just won this weekend, he's in that same kind of position, but he really rotates into contact more like that. So, like I said, you got to find what works best for you. Now, some people may be able to rotate more and be able to get into the right position. It's just hard to say without seeing your swing. I don't really know. I mean, you're not fighting a hook. That doesn't mean that you're compressing the ball and getting forward shaft lean, which is kind of the whole point, of the idea. So it's just hard to say without seeing your swing. Neville D says, 2 questions about the PRGR. Just finished the catapult drill, swinging as hard as possible every time. All swings at the ball were around 88 miles per hour, 215 to 217 carry, but all practice swings only around 83 miles per hour. Why the difference? I'm not really sure why the difference, but that's pretty common. And it can go on both ends of the spectrum. So myself, I actually swing faster with a golf ball versus without. But Clay swings faster without a golf ball versus with. So I don't really know why that is, but it's fairly common. So not a big deal, not something I would worry about. My last swing of the session was a total outlier, 106 miles per hour smash factor. Before that, my best was 91 miles. How come such discrepancy? So he's saying that he had a swing that registered at 106. I would say that's more than likely a misread. It probably caught the ball speed, and then it probably just got the ball speed and mistaked it for the club head. That'd be my guess, or it was just a flat out misread. What we have to understand is that these devices aren't perfect. Even the really, really expensive devices like TrackMan, FlightScope, GC Quad, these $18,000, $25,000 devices, they all have misreads. They're not perfect devices. Sometimes they have misreads. So, these $150, $200, $300 devices, they have misreads too. So, it happens sometimes. I would say, if you're getting in the 88 to 91 range, with your best swings, and all of a sudden you see 100 miles per hour, that's likely a misread. It's probably reading the ball speed and/or it's just a flat out misread. So if you see your club head speed all of a sudden jump up, you're kind of doing the same thing over and over. Maybe you're trying a little different things and you're seeing your club heads go up 10 miles per hour just like that. Probably not real. It's probably a misread, or it got confused between the face or between the ball and the club. Now, that being said, I have seen people, make huge differences in their club head speed, but they made a huge difference in what they were doing. So, for instance, I have had people come to the distance clinic who have shoulder turns that are like this, right? They're turning their shoulders about 45 degrees, and then all of a sudden they turn their shoulders to here, and they go from 82 to 104, right? I've seen that. But if that's not what you're doing, then it's not likely that you went up to 106 miles per hour. I probably read the ball speed, which would make sense. I mean, if you're swinging 88 miles per hour, you know, a range ball, 106 miles per hour ball speed, that makes sense. You know, that's pretty, it's not too far off from what I would see. So Russ C says, between great shots, I'm either pushing a great shot straight to the right, field stands, or ground ball far but to third base. No jokes while playing the wrong sport. I tried several fixes but can't figure it out. Thanks. So you're chunking and topping. It's not, or not chunking and topping. You're either pushing a great shot. So it sounds like you're probably swinging too much into out. It would be my guess. So basically, if you're pushing a shot, that means that your face and your path are out to the right, right? So that would be a push. And when you swing too much into out, that also moves the low point of your club back. When I'm talking about the low point, I'm talking about where this club comes down, reaches the low point, and then works back up, right? So when I swing really, really into out, my low point is back here. So if my miss is a block out to the right, which means my path is too much into out, my face is in the same direction, I can easily top it if I put a ball down here. If I'm swinging too much into out, my club can be bottoming out in this area, then missing the ground, then working back up, and now I'm topping the ball. I'm hitting the top of the golf ball. So that's probably what's going on there. So what I would try to do is try to feel like your body is opening up more. You know, the fault is this. The fault is too much into out. You're probably looking like this. This is exaggerated, but you know, a version of this. Now I can't see your swing. I'm just kind of guessing based on what you gave me here. But it's probably looking something like this. You know, shoulders are very closed off, coming into contact. Or maybe they're not closed off and just the club's just working a lot from the inside. But for the most part, the club's just working from the inside. So what I would try to feel like is that you're more like this. The club's working more steeply down into the golf ball. My shoulders are more closed off. My club is coming down like this. And the reality will hopefully be something like this, where your shoulders are more squared off, the club's more on plane, and you're coming down, the club's bottoming out just in front of the golf ball like we want it to be. So that's why I call fault, feel, real. Fault is this, feel is this, real is this, right where you want to be. So Timothy D says, getting correct spine tilt now. Finally, what I noticed is higher ball flight, although because of hitting it more solid, same total yardage. Is this higher flight normal? It could be. You could be coming in more shallow. So you could have been coming in more steep before. So basically you may, with your spine angle not correct, you could have been coming in more like this, which would promote a more downward angle of attack, which would promote a lower ball flight. And then you get more angled away, right? You're kind of hoisting the ball up in the air. So it's about finding that happy medium. You know, you get your spine angle angled away, but you also want to get your body opening up so that you can release this club out in front. If I just get angled away like this, I'm not really opening my body, I'm probably going to release early, come in really shallow, I'm going to flip, I'm going to hit the ball really, really high. So ideally, I'd have my spine angle angled away, but I would also get this club releasing out in front so that I can compress the ball. I can come in nice and shallow, but also get some forward shaft lean and compress the ball. This is what you see in all the best players, right? Anybody who's really good does this, right? Is rotating their body, getting somewhat open. Some are more open than others, but getting somewhat open as they're opening up the body into contact, getting the hands out in front of the golf ball, getting some compression on this golf ball, and releasing that out in front. Excuse me. All right. So James C says, I'm really seeing better contact from shallowing the face from the move. Great to hear. However, I am hooking the ball. I think it's from starting my downswing with the arms, hands. Do you think that's right? And can you recommend drills to stop this? So it's hard to say without seeing your swing, but basically, remember, a hook is caused by the face being close to the path and or a toe strike. That's essentially what caused the hook. So it could be what you talked about. You know, if you start down with the arms and the hands, you just kind of throw. If you do that, typically your face is going to get closed and you're going to, over rotate the club. So what you need to do is rotate the body as you're coming into contact. So this is what I see oftentimes with people who do the move is they'll turn the handle, right, to close the face, but they don't change anything else. They stay steep, right? They stay steep. They just turn the handle down. And then when they come into contact, they still look the same, but the face is just really closed. That's going to cause you to hit a hook, right? So the face being close to the path, that's where that hook comes from. Now, what also may be going on, what we tried to actually do in the move is we try to get you to overdo these things. We try to get you to over shallow the club. We try to get you to actually close the face, right? Because the best way to fix any issue is always to exaggerate the opposite. If you're going like this over the top open face, the best way to fix that is shallow out, closing the face, right? Get to where you're hitting those big hooks. So if you look on video and you see you are at contact and you look like this, you've got the handle way out in front, you've shallowed out the club, you're getting this club face square earlier, if you're seeing all those things, you're over shallowing it and all those things, go to, I think it's either the last video of the move or the second to last video of the move. This is where we go and we straighten that out, right? But if you look on video and you're getting those hooks and you see the club is maybe shallowing out some, or steep, and you see at contact you kind of look like this, still an early release, then you're just flipping the club with closing down the face. So you need to go back and work on more of the move. Get the ball to start to the right, hook to the left, and get that forward shaft link. Get this club in this kind of position at contact. Once you do that, then you can go to that last video. But until then, you need to keep on working on the move to do it correctly. Otherwise, you're just closing the face. That's all you're really doing. So Mark Z says, my drives are super high and no rollout whatsoever. How do I achieve lower ball flight? So it's hard to say exactly why. If it's pop-ups, if you're hitting the ball off the crown of the club, that's because your low point is probably happening at the golf ball, and we want that to occur before the golf ball when we're hitting the driver. So I would just be trying to stay behind the golf ball a little bit more, right, so that you can hit up on the golf ball if you're getting pop-ups. Now, if it's not for pop-ups, you're hitting the ball solid, and you're hitting the ball too high, right, you're probably early releasing. You're probably coming in and it's like this. Right, so you need to work on the straight line release or maybe the move course. If you look at your swing and you're coming down steep and then you kind of come in. So when I say steep, I mean the butt end of the club's kind of pointing inside the golf ball, and then you do that kind of action. Well, when you stand up, you have to flip the club to get to the golf ball. So if you look like this, if you look at your swing on video and you look more like this at contact, that's why you're hitting it so light, because you're adding loft, right? So we want to come into contact like this. If you have a driver, the shaft's going to be pretty much straight up and down when you look on video with the driver because of the ball position. With a iron, right, my ball position is back here. So, if I have the shaft leaning forward, it's going to look like that. But for a driver, my ball position is more up there. So it's going to look, my hands are in the same place, right? But because my ball position, it looks like I don't have any forward shaft lean. And here it looks like I have a ton of forward shaft lean. So with a driver, it's going to look like there's pretty much no forward shaft lean. There's some players out there, like Dustin Johnson, who just won. His impact looks like this, because he really turns down this handle and he really he hits that hold off fade as he's coming through there. So, but If you're someone who looks like this at contact, your hands are more in the middle of your body, and you're seeing the shaft's really aiming backwards, then you're flipping the early release of the club there. So you're either going to want to work on the move or the straight line release course. If you look on video and you see you're coming down steep, then I would work on the move, because getting that club to shallow out and get the club face squaring earlier will allow you to stay in your posture and then rotate through contact like you see with Dustin Johnson, or basically any tour player. But if you are shallowing out the club fine, then you may want to work on just the straight line release course. So to get to those courses, sorry I haven't been telling you all where to get to the courses, but to get to the courses, all you got to do is click the house icon at the top of the page. That'll take you to the home page, and you can scroll down the home page and see all the list of the courses. And just click on that on the course that you need to work on and get started. So James C says, I still have a tendency of standing up or my backside moving closer to the ball at impact. Any drills to help stop this, or could there be a flexibility strength issue I can address? The drills are going to be the move course and or the stop early extension course. So the move course focuses on shallowing out the club and squaring the face earlier. So if you have the face steep, if you have the club steep and the face open, basically you're going to cut across the ball and come like that. And when you come down steep, you got to stand up and move your hips closer to the ball to get that club to shallow out so that you can hit a good shot. So that's going to be the move. Now, if you look on video and you see that you're doing this, but you have the club shallowed out, but you go like this, then you need to work on what's called side bend, which we talk about in the stop early extension course. So that's basically if I'm trying to move my shoulder closer to my hip, right? My right shoulder closer to my hip, that's going to be right side bend. That's what we need to have happen as we come into contact. So here, this would be, if I'm going like this, as I'm coming into contact, I don't have a lot of side. I may have a little bit. Some players you'll see they'll be bumped out like this, but usually there's not a lot of side bend there. So side bend is what allows you to kind of open your hips and have your shoulders relatively square as you're coming into contact. Allows you to bring this club on the plane with a square club fit, or with a square path. So that may be something you need to work on. You could be standing, too much bent over, or have your butt kind of sticking out like this. That kind of arches your back and locks things up. It makes it difficult to kind of get your hip. If you're like this, if you're very bent over in the backswing, a lot of times or very bent over at address, a lot of times you'll want to go like this, or you won't be able to get the hip deep, and then you'll go like that in the downswing. So there's also a drill in there for about posture, kind of standing tall, getting your butt kind of underneath you a little bit, kind of looking like this, right? Getting your butt underneath you a little bit. This will allow you to kind of turn and get your hip a little bit more deep in the backswing. And then instead of going like this, you'll be more likely to kind of sit and then rotate through. So it's hard to say without seeing your swing, but I would be looking at those two courses, the move and or the stop early extension course. And to get to those courses, just click the house icon, scroll down, you'll see a list of all the courses. There's 20 some plus courses, so you have to scroll through some courses to find it. But yeah, they're both right there. As far as flexibility and strength issue, it's really impossible to say unless you get an assessment. And even then, sometimes I don't buy it. I'm not very flexible, right? I have internal. So basically, TPI, Titleist Performance Institute, they have this flexibility test or range of motion test, whatever you want to call it. And I took it. I didn't do my lower body is not very flexible at all, but I'm able to get into positions. So I don't know that I would look at that and say, no, you can't do it. Might just be some adjustments you have to make. So myself, I have limited internal rotation in my hip, so I can't really turn my foot in very much. That's, if I lift that up, that's about as much as I can do. 15 degrees maybe. So that makes it difficult. If I were to set up, let's say I set up pigeon-toed, kind of like this, I wouldn't be able to rotate at all, hardly, if I add like that. That's about all I can do. So that's why I set up with my feet angled out. Now I can really rotate very easily because my legs are angled out. That makes it a lot easier for me to rotate. So I don't know. In my experience, sure, some physical limitations can make things more difficult, but I don't know that sometimes I don't know. I just haven't ran into a lot of trouble with that. Now, as far as strength is concerned, I mean, if you're really overweight, I've recently lost some weight, so I do find it easier to move now that I'm a little bit lighter. But again, not impossible. There's been plenty of big guys. I mean, John Daly, Craig Stadler, Kevin Stadler's son. There's been plenty of big guys that have had success on tour for sure. The guy who just went on Corn Ferry, he's kind of a bigger guy. And then there's a European player, Beef or whatever they call him. He's a bigger guy, moves just fine. So, I wouldn't say that that's necessarily something that's going to stop you either. Obviously, there's extremes, but it can make things more difficult for sure. All right, so Joe C says, I tend to start the downswing with my upper body, causing casting of the club. What is the best drill to help start the downswing with the lower body? The step drill, by far the best drill. Go to the 20-minute distance fixed course and then go to the sumo step drill. It's in week 1. So go to the top of the page, click the house icon. It's going to be one of the, if you scroll down, you'll see a list of all the courses. The 20-minute distance fix is going to be one of the first ones there. Click on the 20-minute distance fix and then go to week 1, go to the sumo step drill. So what you're doing in the sumo step drill is you're getting your weight shifting to your lead side. Typically, what's going to happen in your swing, the downswing, people will separate the backswing and the downswing, and that's not what the best players do. The best players are really doing things in their backswing that allow them to start the downswing sequence correctly. So what that means is a lot of people load up all the way to the backswing, and then from the very top, they kind of throw their arms, and then the arms kind of have this what we call a false weight shift as they're coming through. What you need to have happen is very initially, very first thing in the backswing, you're going to start loading up in the trail foot. All right, that's when you're really loading up that pressure. And then as you're going up to the top of the swing, your momentum, you're still loading up pressure here, but your momentum is moving to your lead side. You're feeling that pushing and the momentum going to your lead side. And that way, before your arms even start downward, before this club starts down, you've got pressure right here. And now I can push into the ground and rotate and start the swing with my lower body and my core, as opposed to load up, I'm right here, and then I start down. If you're already starting down with your arms before you got any momentum shift to your lead side, you're done. If you think about any powerful athletic movement, right? If you take a baseball pitcher, right? A baseball pitcher, as their arm is going back that way, they're pushing forward. They don't go like this and then go off, right? Any powerful athletic movement, it's like this. Anybody throwing a Hail Mary, right? They're going like this and throwing the Hail Mary. So that's any powerful athletic motion. There's a load up, momentum transfer phase, and it's happening as you load up initially, and then you let it go. So that's what you want to be doing in the golf swing, and that step drill is the best drill to do that. Now, it's going to feel funny to you at first. It's going to feel like you can't complete your backswing when you do that. But trust me, once you feel how powerful it is, once you get some pressure in that lead leg and get that kind of powering the downswing a little bit, the more you can push into the ground, the more you can really rotate through and allow yourself to be in good shape at impact. All right, so Michael H. says, I started having very progress with my irons, focusing on swing, angle, and compression. However, I feel like I lose progress when I start to use fairway woods and my driver. Would you Recommend sticking with irons until my fundamentals are more ingrained. Then move onto the woods and onto my hybrids and woods. No, I mean, I'd recommend try to do it with all your clubs. Just understand it's going to be more difficult with, you're doing the same things. It's just going to be more difficult with those clubs because they're longer. Just by virtue of the clubs being longer, less loft, they're harder to hit. Just understand that they're going to be, you're not going to hit them as well. There's a reason why, if you gave me 50 balls, right, and I hit 50 full swing wedges versus 50 full swing drivers, my proximity to my target is going to be a lot better with this club because it's an easier club to hit. Whereas with my driver, I'm going to have more dispersion for sure. So don't expect to hit, to hit your driver and your fairway wedge and your hybrids as good as you hit the rest of your shorter clubs. It's just the nature of it. So as you get better and better and better, you'll that will improve. But yeah, it's always going to be a little bit more difficult. So Randall P says, I'm all confused about turning the doorknob during the move. If I turn to the right, I don't have to turn it back to the left to get the club face squared up before impact. Can you demonstrate, please? Yes. So you're exactly right. That's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to square the face earlier in the swing. So if you're someone who comes down steep, right, you're used to coming down like this and having that face maybe open a little bit, and then you're used to coming into contact and having to flip and roll the hands, right? So you're used to coming into contact like this and really kind of flipping and rolling the hands through. That's what you're used to. The move is the opposite. The move is squaring the face earlier. So now what allows me to bring this club into impact is the rotation of my body. I'm already got this face square. I don't need to do anything else with my hands except rotate my body into impact and bring my hands down into impact. If I were to do kind of the same, if I were to square the face earlier and then roll my hands over and not rotate my body, I'm just gonna have that face slam shut, right? So that's gonna look like this. I'm just gonna come in like that and really close the face down. What I want to do is get that face square earlier so that way I can rotate into contact. Now, look what my hands are in front of impact. I have a square club face. This allows you to be a lot more consistent. This is what all the best players do. They square the face earlier. They rotate into contact. It really, really allows them to control their face, their path, their ground contact, strike location, all that stuff. If you're bringing this club down steep and you're not using the momentum of the club correctly, it's just going to be really hard to control all those things. If you have great hands, like a Phil Mickelson, okay? Phil Mickelson comes down steep. He comes down steep, he comes in, he really downcocks this, gets a ton of lag, comes down steep, and then comes into impact and just rolls those hands over hard through impact. Now he releases the club out in front because he does have some pretty good rotation, but he really rolls over the hands. This is why Phil Mickelson has a tough time with control. He has a tough time to control. Now, can you play great golf this way? Absolutely. Your timing has to be dead on, and you have to have, Phil Mickelson has the best hands in the world probably as far as golf is concerned. So, really, really incredible athlete. So that's what it comes down to. You can play great golf doing it. It's just hard to be consistent. And that's what Phil Mickelson's struggled with his entire career, is controlling the driver, right? Controlling the driver and being very, very consistent, with his long game. So that's, when you come down steep like that and you have to roll over hard at impact, it's just hard to. Dustin Johnson, the opposite. Dustin Johnson's been consistent throughout his whole career. He's on a streak of however many years in a row that he's won a tournament every single year, right? Every single year he's playing pretty good at some point to win a tournament. He's squaring that face earlier, right? And he's got that face square from here all the way down to impact and after impact. If he hit the ball anywhere in this area, right, he's going to hit it straight, right? Whereas Phil, that face is open, comes down close, and then shuts like that. And his path can be all over the place. It's just harder to control when you do that. So, just something to keep in mind. But yeah, turning the doorknob shallow as the club allows you to get it in the slot, so that way you can have face stability as you're coming through contact. But yeah, you don't have to roll over the face hard like you're used to. You know, if you're used to flipping, you don't have to roll over the face hard to square that up, if that is the case. So Theodore D says, most of my shots start out on target line and then curve left sometime with a slight draw, sometimes a more dramatic hook. My sense is that I don't maintain my posture, but rather my shoulders are wide open at impact. Can you suggest any drills to help start the ball out, to keep to the right, to keep the shoulders more square at impact? So one thing you mentioned there is that I don't maintain my posture, but rather my shoulders are wide open. My sense is that I don't. Okay, so what that tells me, and that could be wrong, but what that tells me is you're not filming your swing. You got to video your swing. We can't base what's going on feel. Well, feel is not real. Feel is often not real. So you got to video your swing. I know it's a pain in the butt sometimes, but you got to video your swing to see what's really going on. I'm telling you, if you do that, you'll realize, oh, I'm doing this. I need to not do that so that I can hit the ball straight. So, but I don't know what you're doing at impact. It's hard to say without seeing your swing. But I would say, the shoulders can be open at impact as long as they're rotating on plane, right? So what that means is that I could be coming into contact like this. My shoulders, my hips or my chest is very, very open. My shoulders are open, but they're on plane. Right? If I was like this, that would be not on plane. So if I grab a club here, if my shoulders are like this, that's on plane, I'd be over the top. If my shoulders are like this, right, that's too much from the inside. But if my shoulders are open like this, my shoulders are on plane, they can open as much as they want as long as they're on plane and in sync with the rest of my body. So that's not necessarily a problem. It's hard to say without seeing your swing, but you got to video your swing. What you have to understand is that a ball that curves right to left, I talked about this earlier, but a ball that curves right to left is purely because the face is close to the path. So what I would try to do is come in with an open face and a path that's out to in. That's what I would try to feel like. Open face, path out to in. Try to hit a cut. That's the easiest thing I can tell you. The other thing it could be is a toe strike. If you hit the ball on the toe, you may end up with a hook shot. So it really just boils down to where you strike it on the face, and then your face and your path relationship. So I'd be trying to alter those things, and whatever you do with your swing, it would be to alter those things. So if it is a face and path relationship issue, and it's hooks that are the issue, then I would go to our Never Hook Again course and work through the drills. Click the house icon, go to the Never Hook Again course. If you scroll down, you'll see a list of all the courses. Go to the Never Hook Again course and start working through those. If it is a strike issue, if you're feeling the club twist in your hand on those hooks, then try to hit it on the heel, because most likely, maybe you're getting a toe strike on some of them, but you may also, be getting a little bit of a toe strike on the ones that feel kind of solid. So use some foot power spray it on the face, see where you're striking it. If you are striking on the toe, try to strike it in the heel, and keep doing that until you actually start striking it in the heel. So Merritt D says, in setup, are the upper arms against the chest with elbows up or more hanging to your sides? Hanging to your sides. Yeah, you want to be pretty relaxed. You're not going to be like this. You want to be kind of relaxed and hanging to your sides, essentially. I meant rotating the club face. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Mayor. Jeremy B says, Q, learned a lot at the Orlando Distance Clinic. Quick question on driver. Do you feel on the downswing that you're driving? Do you feel on downswing that you are driving butt of a club to outside of ball? Do you feel on downswing that you are driving butt of club to outside of ball? No, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, feel is completely relative. So, whatever you need to feel, if that helps you hit the ball better, then that's great. But I mean, that's not necessarily what I feel. And I haven't really heard of that one. Butt into the club, outside of the ball. I mean, butt into the club, I would say that's this, going to the outside of the golf ball. No, I mean, I would say no. But hey, if that feeling helps you, then that's what I'd look at. Jeremy B says have problems casting the driver. Then I would work through our top speed lag course. One thing I would also look at that isn't very talked about is I would look at where your arm is, your right arm, your trail arm, that is. If your trail arm is kind of getting stuck behind you like this, your first inclination in the downswing is going to be to cast the club. That's typically what I see a big time with casters is they kind of get into this position like this. So if you look at here, I'm going to look like this, right? So my right arm is very bent. It's kind of stuck behind me a little bit. So from here, I basically have no choice but to kind of to kind of throw it essentially. So one thing you can try is to try to keep your right arm relatively straight, right? So, because what that does, now your swing may get shorter because of that. You may be doing this and bending your lead arm and getting that arm back there as a means to lengthen your swing, but your swing may get shorter a little bit. So you may kind of end up more like this, but you're probably not going to lose much speed from that. You may lose a hair, but not much. As long as you're getting a good shoulder turn, you should still be in good shape. But if I have this like that, now I can get lag, and also now I have space for my arm to kind of work into my body. Whereas if I had it back here, I'm going to have no chance. So if you imagine if I were to throw a ball sidearm, right? If I were to throw a ball sidearm, what I would do is I would come in and I would get that elbow kind of, I'm doing submarine style here, kind of to emulate a golf swing. But basically I take that ball and I would come in like this to throw at the target. Imagine if I had my arm like this and I had it kind of stuck behind my body. Well, the only place I'm going to be able to throw this with any power would be right there. Go ahead and try this. Grab a ball, and or it doesn't even have to be a golf ball, but you can even kind of emulate. But if you were to rotate your body like this and kind of put your elbow back, bend it as much as you can, and put it kind of back behind you as much as you can, where's the only place you can throw this to get power? Right there. That's the only place that you can throw it with power. If you were to try to throw it toward a target, if you were to try to throw it out here, that thing's not going to have any power at all, right? Or control, right? The only place you're going to be able to throw it with any power would be right there, just to spike it into the ground. So that's the same thing that happens in the golf swing. If I'm right here, I'm going to spike that thing right. I'm just going to throw it right away. Whereas if I'm throwing a ball sidearm, if I want to do it with any power, I'm going to be like this, right? I'm going to have my elbow. It's not going to have it's going to be somewhere around 90 degrees probably. I'm going to have it to where I can get it out in front of my body, right? And I can really whip it and throw it. Same thing with the golf club. I want to get out here so that way I can bring it into my body. Unless you're just super flexible and you can get that working in, but even then, that's not going to be as powerful as that. So that's one thing I would look at. Another thing I mentioned that because I have two students right now that are casting the club, kind of like what you mentioned, and I have them both doing that. Now, a drill that you can do, you may have seen Sergio doing this drill. They can kind of help you with that. Is to kind of put your arm like this and then do some one-arm swings. So you can see if I put my arm like that, I can't put it back behind me, and I can take some swings with that same kind of feeling, and now take it away and try to keep it straighter in the backswing, and that may help you to get rid of that casting a little bit. All right, so I do apologize. I'm not going to get to everybody's questions. There aren't that many left. All right, let's power through these. Not going to be long explanations. So following the TSU, I've improved dramatically playing single digit. However, with my driver, I still have the tendency to open up the shoulders too quick in the first half of the downswing, which creates a slight over the top. To correct the wrong start of the downswing, I end up really extending the slice. Pull any thought on the drill, right side bend. I would go to the stop early extension course or the move course and work through those drills there. Those would be the best drills to help you with that. John N. says, hello, Q. Any tips on cutting short the putting follow through? I really just work on your speed control and focus on, as long as your speed control is good, I don't have any issue with it. As long as you're controlling that speed, fine. So that's why I'd be working on something called search the ladder drill on the website. That's the best speed control drill out there. So as long as you're not having any issues with that, then I don't have any issues with you kind of a pop stroke. Nothing wrong with that. Brent Snedeker uses that to. It's just a matter of getting good with it. Timothy D says, I think there is some early release when I watch my videos, so need to work on forward shaft lean. Yep, that's going to be the move in the straight line release. Neville D says, Q, thanks for your answer on the PRGR. I have the same problem as Mayer with hooking when I rotate the club face in the move. My problem is to set up the face open and then rotate it to square it down. Is this okay? My solution is to set up with the face open and rotate it to square on the way down. So it sounds like you need to look at your swing on video. If you're early releasing still, but you're just turning the handle down, that's closing the face and you're going to get a hook. So you need to get the club shallowing, squaring up earlier, and then rotate into contact with. If you rotate into contact, it feel like your hands aren't. If you've already squared up the face, your hands don't have to do anything more. So get that face already square and then rotate the club into contact. That's what I would try to feel like. So if you are seeing that, if you're seeing us forward shaft lean at contact, go to the last video of the move. It's either the last or the second last video and work out the hooks there. But if you see that you're still flipping through contact, you need to allow your body to, you've already squared the face. You don't need to close it anymore. Allow the body to rotate into contact so that way you don't flip. John N says, hello again. Is it common to feel a vertical lift of the club after the first 3 feet of the backswing? I mean, sure. I mean, some people, it's really personal preference. There's, like I said earlier with the takeaway, there's lots of ways to do it, right? So Matt Wolf, he feels straight, I guarantee he just feels straight up lift to start the swing. His club goes like this, right? So he's lifting more at the beginning and then he turns later, right? And gets that club shell out. JB Holmes, he turns right away and then lifts up. So just do whatever gets you to get the club in the right position at the top. Here's how you can get in that right position at the top. Hinge the club, get in the setup position, right? Hinge the club up to 90 degrees. Turn the face a little bit. So turn the face like that, right? Turn the face a little bit. Take the club, put it up over your right shoulder as much as you can, right? And then turn. Turn your hips 45 and your shoulders 90. This is a great top of the swing position right there. That'd be perfect. Now, just think about, make a mental note. Okay, this is where I want to be. And then take some practice swings going up to that position. Don't think about anything else. Just think about, I need to get here. However gets you up there, that's what you should do. If you're thinking, okay, I'm going to lift and then I'm going to turn, that's too robotic. It's segmented. It's not going to work. You want to be fluid. You want to be one fluid motion going up to the top. So, it doesn't matter if you go like this to get there or if you go like this to get there. The only thing that matters is that you get into that position. So you just have to find what works best for you. And I would get into that position and then do whatever your body wants to do naturally to get up there. Because once you do that, then you don't have to work on anything. You don't have to work on your takeaway. You can just start working on the downswing, which is the most important part. So, all right. Thanks, everybody, for joining me today. We'll be back here tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Everybody have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.